If you need live transcription, you are welcome to send me a chat and we can make sure you have what you need. Gina, there are some really great, I'm so excited to see so many of you. Hello, hello, please write your name in the chat and you can write the name of your school and your preferred pronouns and what grade you teach. You like. Hola, Blanca. Thank you. It looks like people are messaging me privately on accident. Can you make sure that we are able to share it with the whole group so everyone can see if you can? If you're not on Zoom, we can't see the chat, so I will also read it out just in case. Amy. I can't remember. Friend of a friend. Okay, hi Martha. Okay, I'm gonna read out the chat and either go ahead and you can, I guess you can't see when they're just writing to me. So we have here Gina Padilla Quintanar, una colega hace muchos años, Blanca Gonzalez, Micro Education, Kathy from the district nurse with the care program, Amy Whitcomb, Marta Vega, and yes, probably science. And great, looks like we have everyone. Miss Wong, Annie Wong, welcome back. Excellent. And Lorena, so good to see your name. I love seeing people that I haven't seen in so long. If you need transcription, you can click on the interpretation tab and you can add your interpreter. You can also have live transcripts so we can have the captions showing. Just go ahead and click CC. It is enabled. Okay. Anyone else want to join us? All right. Great. What do you think, Irelia, Cecilia? Should we go ahead and get started? Yeah, let's go to the next slide then. Oh, if you haven't signed in today yet, please do so. We can put the link in the chat, but you only need to sign in once today. So if you've already signed in, that is fine. It's okay. Welcome. And we're going to do introductions. I'm Maureen. I'm a teacher librarian at Dolores Huerta, and I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Ponce. I'm a third grade teacher at Dolores Huerta Elementary School.
Hello, I'm Iredi Barajas, and I'm also third grade at Dolores Huerta.
And we were eager to share with you a project that we've done with our students last year and for a few years now, and wanted to share some of the goals we have for this workshop today. Iredi, are you going to go over those?
Yeah, so our goals for today is to learn about Angel Island Immigration Station, to listen and view student interviews that we did this last school year, and explore Adobe Sparks, which is what we used for the project.
Great.
And then some of the norms that we have for today. own intentions / impacts, agency for self-care, multiple modalities of participation. We want to humanize learning spaces, and we can name tensions or seek support. And let us know if there's anything that you would like to add to some of the norms that we have. Sorry, for today, or you can feel free to add them to the chat.
If you have any other questions about the norms, they were taken from Teachers for Social Justice agreements from previous workshops we've done for Digital District Day. And if anyone has questions about them or wants to add anything, please go ahead and open up your mic or write in the chat. But if you would like to agree to those agreements and take care of yourselves today and help us humanize our time together, that would be great. All right. We go to the next slide then. Go ahead, Cecilia. You want to ask the question we asked our students?
Yeah, so we can start today's workshop with a little icebreaker, and this is something that we actually asked our students as well when we started this unit on immigration. So the question is, imagine you have to leave your home, whatever home is for you. What would you take with you? So what's one item, maybe 2 items that you would take with you? And what would you have to leave behind? Let's imagine that you cannot take everything. Maybe you can take a little suitcase, a little briefcase suitcase. So what would you take with you?
You can write your answers in the chat, or you can open up your mic. We have been using breakout rooms for this question, but we realize not all of you are joining via Zoom, so that might not be possible. So we'll do our best to sort of address it as a whole group. But if you'd like to be in a smaller group, let me know. If you're on Zoom, I can definitely make a small group for you to have a chance to chat in a smaller group. Go ahead and write in the chat and we can type it for you.
It looks like Miss Wong would take their fur baby and family photos. Amy would take the cats and a photo album, very similar. Lauren, their phone and their dog. Nancy, a blanket and a pillow. Photos, money, and phone. Wife and dogs. Passports. That's a smart one. That's a good one, Miss Sharon.
I got a little behind, Cecilia. I have passports, photos, money, phone. What else?
Important document, devices, and family. Kids, their kids.
Okay, thank you. What about what you might need to leave behind? And consider the fact that you may not ever be able to go back or not be sure when you could go back. My bills, Lorena.
Leave behind
We
their
have both.
husband.
So some are leaving their family, some are leaving everything else but family. Furniture. Mm-hmm. Money. Yeah. All right. This is great. Thank you. And we would ask the students the same question to kind of have them think about many of us, even if we don't have our go bag actually by the door for an emergency, we think about the things that we would want to make sure we had if we had to leave our home. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. And this project started a while ago where we wanted students in 3rd grade to learn about San Francisco. Hi, Alex, welcome back. Have access to this local history that's right here in San Francisco about Angel Island. And so can we do, this is hard with some of you in Zoom and some of you not, but maybe raise your hand or turn your camera on for a minute or show us if you've ever been to Angel Island before. Can you let us know somehow, either by putting up, great. Because looks like some of you have, many of you have not, looks like. So Angel Island is beautiful and just a ferry ride away. So I definitely recommend that you join. But Cecilia, you want to share what we particularly wanted to take our students to go and see there?
Yeah, so a little bit of Angel Island. It's actually a field trip that we were able to take last school year as 3rd graders. We had 3 3rd grade classrooms. And it was part of our immigration unit. And the reason why we wanted to take them to Angel Island is because we had been learning, we had focused on immigration specifically here in San Francisco. And Angel Island is, as we know, has a wide range of history as being one of the landing docks for a lot of immigrants, specifically of Asian descent. So it was really neat to have our students be able to see a lot of artifacts that are still there, and they were able to actually have guided tours from the employees that are still there at Angel Island.
Yeah, and we were actually able to do a virtual tour last year. They had this really amazing online experience when we were shut down and learning remotely. So we wanted to take a few minutes for you to explore some of those resources. So on slide 8, there are 4 different links. One is to a Google Arts and Culture presentation about the immigration station. One is actually on the Angel Island Immigration Station website. You can listen to some immigrants' voices, interviews with either people or family members whose family immigrated through Angel Island. And then there's a virtual exhibit through the website where you can see some of the building. And then the last link is actual links to curriculum that you can use directly with your students. So we want to take like 10 minutes for you to explore any one of these links and think about how you would like to modify or use them with your students. And so you can write in the chat or put up your mic, and afterwards we'll reflect a little bit with each other about what you find. Can we put the links in the chat? Yes. Hi, Nancy. Yes, we can.
Hola.
I was just talking about you today. Kristen Carver is here and I'm telling her about you. Okay. I'm linking the slides in the chat, and then Ireri, can you help me with the individual links too?
It's a little hard to do so because I'm sharing maybe.
Oh, you're sharing. I'll do it. I'll do it.
I can do it. I'll leave the link. Okay, so it looks like all the links are now in the chat. So you can go ahead and click on the links in the chat, or you can just go directly to the presentation that we also linked. So you can explore the different resources that we have here for the next 10 minutes.
Great, and please let us know if you need any help or having difficulty accessing the resources.
about 5 more minutes to explore.
All right, everyone, we're coming back in a couple of minutes. I'm putting a Jamboard in the chat where you can write your questions or comments that are coming up for connections to your own student population. I'm realizing that I think if you are not in the Zoom room, you may not have access to the chat. So we want to make sure everyone has access. You want to share it, Ireri, or shall I?
Do it.
You got it? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Great. Hi, Lauren. Oh, is it view only? Oh,
Yeah, it's you only.
try again. Sorry about that. This is called responsive facilitation, trying to address our needs midstream. Okay, try that. So I saw some really good questions in the chat. I'll read them out while people are getting connected to the Jamboard. How were we able to adapt some of the curriculum to lower grades? And also, how did you get a tour? Eliza, it is a good question. You're right, they are gearing their tour for upper grades only in elementary and middle and high school, but we advocated for our students and said they were really prepared and ready. Cecilia, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I want to say that we sent out a message to Angel Island early in the fall. So we had been in communication with them since maybe September. So this is something that we knew that we really wanted to get done this year when we came back to school and to in-person instruction. My first year teaching third grade here at the school, I had heard about this project, but the field trip hadn't been done in a while. And they were, I think, if you reach out and you ask, it never hurts to ask. Although their website clearly states that they only host field trips for, I believe, middle school or maybe fourth, fifth graders, the youngest.
4 or 5, yeah.
4 or 5,
Mhm.
but it never hurts to ask. I think it's a good lesson, right? That we should always just reach out, as we do as teachers. And then we sent that out. We sent in our request. They approved us. It did take a lot of fundraising. So fortunately at our school, we have a pretty active PTA that supported us with the funding because it was pricey in terms of getting a tour for all students. I believe it was $3 per person.
For the tour on the island at the station, but the ferry ticket is actually the biggest cost. If your school is closer to it, they now no longer leave from Pier 41. They leave from the Embarcadero, from the red and gold fleet ferry. So it is more accessible, public transportation wise. I think it's Pier 23 or 31, you remember? But anyway, I think that it is easier now to get there on public transit, but the ferry cost was, I think in total, it was like $15 per person round trip.
9.
9? Oh, they gave you
We
a
were able to get
discount
a
for
discount,
students.
yeah.
So that's good. So we're talking about $12 per student, and adults are a little more than that. So we asked families to pay what they could, and then we were able to defray the cost so that no one would not be allowed to go if they couldn't pay. So yes, the links for the field trips are at the back of the slides that we'll get to. And sorry, people are leaving my house. No, high school could absolutely go on this trip. That's not a problem. Ireri, do you want to speak, since we're kind of talking logistics before we move on to the next thing, just about accessibility?
Yeah, I had a student who uses a power wheelchair, and so our concern was how accessible is the island for him. It was a little tough getting information and getting a response on that, just because I had never been there myself. And the hike up to the immigration station is quite heavy, and it does require stairs. So we did speak to a park ranger, which they are very kind and very helpful once you get a hold of them. And we were able to set up a transportation from the base to the immigration station for my student. He wasn't able to use his own wheelchair because it's quite heavy, and the only transportation that they had was a pickup truck. But on the island, they do have wheelchairs that you can set up with them, and they are happy to help you.
So for students who are able to walk, it's about a 1 mile hike, and there are some stairs, like Ireri said. So it is, I would say, a challenge for city kids who may not be as accustomed to hiking or walking to do that, but it's such a beautiful place, and I think it really helps you get the mindset of what were these people feeling and thinking when they're arriving to this place they've never been, and sort of feel what it was like to be on the island. So we will definitely share those links at the end, and they are also in the slides at the resources page. And I wanted to give a shout out to Maria Elena Romero, who's from the Ethnic Studies program in SFUSC, who put a link about the history and social studies resources at the end as well, if you want to say anything about that. I know it's still in progress, right?
Everything is still in progress in history and social studies, mostly because TSAs were subbing a lot last year, and I'm the only one. So, but I'm so excited and not surprised that Huerta is doing all this great work. And I'm hoping that they will let me share it with them, with all of you on the website, for anybody who's may have missed it that you think may be interested, or is that another PD? And then hopefully I will see all of the K-5 people on, what is it, next Monday that we have to do buyback day? So hopefully I will see you there, and then I'll share with you guys the new elementary history social studies webpage, and hopefully this information will be on there because you guys are going to
Awesome.
share it. So
Yes,
no pressure
absolutely.
though.
Collaboration, it's what it's all about.
Yeah,
So,
and if anybody has things that they think would be great on there, let me know.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to move on. We have a Padlet now that I'm dropping in the chat that we would like you to explore. It's a map tablet. You want to pull it up, Irari, so we can just show how it works, please? Thank you. And you can click. We had a Para Institute on Monday, so some of our paras attended and already filled in where their families were either originally from or where they themselves came from before coming to San Francisco. So we also want to recognize that some
Sorry.
of our community.
How long will it take you? Or
Nancy, how you cut out? What did you say? I couldn't hear you, Nancy. Can you write it in the chat? How long will it take you? Is what I heard, but I don't know what you referred to. The walking to the station, you think? Or okay, we'll check in later. We just want to recognize that we know some of our families have ancestors that were forced immigrants. And so we want to recognize that that may be information that people have access to and may not be. And so we also explored in this unit families who migrated from one state to another, or even from one city to another. You know, we've had families who came from Los Angeles or from Sacramento or Salinas, or, coming from, Wisconsin or New York or any other state. So we focused on immigration/migration, and the culminating activity was to interview an elder in our community. For many of our students, they interviewed their family members, but some interviewed paras at our school or teachers or other folks that were also immigrants. So it was as inclusive as we could make it. That's okay, Nan. Okay, so show us how to do it, Ida. You press the little plus at the bottom, and then you can either type in the exact location, or you can drag and drop the red flag to the location. And down at the lower left-hand side, you can increase the size so you can actually find. Central America looks very small right now, but you can maximize the map so you can see it better. And so this is something that we did with our students to try to kind of map our classroom and see where all of our families are coming from. We can just call out maybe when you see new flags pop up, try to read them out.
I see Italy. Sweden, Denmark.
I saw another question about curriculum and how we adapted it, and this curriculum is newer on this website, actually. We sort of developed our own lessons around this, right, Cecilia? And so,
Yeah, so
yeah, go ahead, share what we did.
The website that we shared with you all, it's not something that we necessarily used. Those were just resources that are on their website if you wanted to try to implement. We didn't really implement any of the lessons other than, I believe, one that worked for 3rd grade, where our students learned or had a map of Angel Island, and then they themselves labeled the map, colored it, and it was kind of their physical map for when we visited the island. But other than that, we've created our own lessons around this. It's been a work in progress. So as many of us know, we haven't had a social studies or history curriculum, a newer one in the district for a while. So we've been working with what we have.
Thanks. And part of the standards, as you know, in 3rd grade are to understand kind of will move to this particular place, and 4th grade as well. And so we did use a website that I had developed during graduate school for librarianship to compare Ellis Island and Angel Island. And we had students examine some primary sources around that. And we definitely read a lot of books. I saw a Jamboard tag about that. And I'm looking to see if I can share this list from our. We had over 100 books that we, brought to the classrooms for kids to read, not only about Angel Island, but also about immigration from all over the world. Ireri and Cecilia, do you want to shout out any particular books that you wanted to share that you remember?
I don't remember titles. But I remember there was one that the students really enjoyed, and it was telling the story of a young boy. I think it was called was it The Arrival, maybe? No, Paperboy. Paper Son. There we go.
A little older, but there's a new book about who ended up being an animator for Disney. Children's book.
I mean, you're cutting out.
Okay. I'll try. Is it better? Can you hear me? No? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay. Why don't we go to the next slide then? So the next piece is, you can keep going after the Jamboard, after the Padlet rather. Thank you, Amy. I love all the librarians in the mix. All the readers are here helping me out. You can go to the next slide, Ireri. And the next one. Yeah. So we want to share some of the interviews that students did with their community. And so Ireri and Cecilia are going to share some of the students' stories. We made sure, as you know, some immigration stories are really traumatic and difficult stories to share. And so we made sure our community knew that these were stories that we wouldn't share outside of our classroom community unless we had their permission. So the stories we're sharing with you today, we have permission to do so. You want to start, Cecilia, and share?
Yeah. I can start with one of my students from last year. And as we mentioned earlier, we had two different mediums that students could use to kind of publish their interviews. So the very first thing that they did is that they, at least in my classroom, I had my students give me a written form. So they had to have something that they wrote, right? I wanted to see that they actually conducted these interviews with either a school member or someone in their families or themselves. This student decided to publish their work through Google Slides. So this is just one of the presentations. I can translate, it is in Spanish, but the title of this is My Story, My Immigration Story. And the very first question that the student had in their interview, they interviewed themselves, is, what country are you from? And he says he is from Guatemala, and he added a flag from Guatemala. And then the next question is, how did you get here? And he wrote that he came here on a boat, and then a bus, and then a car, and then a plane. And then, as you can see, he was very creative in adding all these different images of his way to San Francisco. The next question is, why did you come? And he says that he came because his mom was having problems with money, and his mom wanted a better future for them, referring to himself and his younger brother. Why did you leave your country? He says that he left his country because he wanted to be with his family. So he didn't stay in Guatemala because he wanted to be with his mom and his dad. So he came with them. How old were you when you left? He says that he was 6 years old, and he believes that he left in August. And that is one of the presentations that I have. And then Ireri, did you want to present one of yours?
Yes. So that one was a Google Slides presentation, but we also used Adobe Sparks. And so the one that I'm going to share is an Adobe Sparks presentation. And this student interviewed his mom, who came from India. So let's see. Let me just pull it up real quick. And so students had the option of doing either a Google Slides or an Adobe Sparks. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, and Adobe Spark, it's not as hard as it seems. I was a little scared when I first introduced this to my students because it was my first time seeing this website, but it's pretty, we can navigate it pretty easily, and our third grade students can definitely do it. They're excited.
Sorry, it takes a minute to load. Okay, here we go.
My mom's story. Where did you come from?
I came from India.
Why did you come to the US?
I came to the US for my further studies. I came here for my master's.
When did you come to the US?
I came to the US almost 20 years ago when I was 22.
Was it hard to adapt to the US?
Some things in the US were very different from what I was used to, and some things were a little bit more difficult, but other things were not as hard, easier here.
What changes did you experience?
There are a lot less people here than there are in India, and the traffic is definitely better here. And I love that there are so many libraries because I love to read.
And so that was a project from one of my students. And like Cecilia said earlier, I also required them to sort of submit questions before they actually started the interview and the projects, just so that I can sign off on it. But students have the opportunity to pick whatever questions. And so each student had a different set of questions with different information. It was really all up to them.
Ireri, do you want to show that slide in our presentation that has at least some initial questions we brainstormed with the students? And I made a new page in the Jamboard. If you have other questions that you'd like, you know, to document for us to ask students, or for yourselves to remember to ask students, go ahead and write them in the Jamboard so we can have them available. There were about 17 questions, I think, through a lesson on KQED Spark that we got some of these questions from. And I think one of the really big questions that became a recurring theme was about the expectations comparing with reality. And everybody had different feelings before they actually arrived, and then after arriving and having lived here some time, about their experience. And I think another connection that the students were able to really make between Angel Island and some of their own lived experiences was the racism that they experienced, you know, with the deportation centers and different ways that immigrants have been treated over time in this country. And so it really generated a lot of critical discussion about the way that different groups of people have been treated. Go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, good. There. Sorry. Hi. I was curious what, and I put this in the Jamboard, but it brought it up again. What time of year did you do this? I'm hearing a lot of the conversations were, you know, like I like the idea of us doing it at the beginning of the year, but it also feels I'm a little cautious about that. So I'm curious about the timing and how you set it so that it was not harmful or supportive.
Cecilia, are you ready? You want to answer that?
Yeah, so you ask about how we supported our students in creating this project, right? Like, as we mentioned, it's very vulnerable to share an experience like that, or to share, or for your family, right? So it actually, we actually have this unit, this project in the spring, So this is our last trimester of school. So we had already, hopefully by then, developed a community where we all feel safe, where we can all support one another. So that is very important, right? This is not something that we start right in the beginning. You know, of course, it's valuable to have these kinds of conversations in the beginning because it's how students get to know each other better. But we definitely waited for something this big for the spring because we had already built that kind of relationship, and students feel safe, right, to share these experiences. I cannot imagine that my students who shared their own experiences would have been comfortable sharing this in the fall. But once they all get to know their classmates, once we already established that kind of culture in our classroom and in the school, right? It's something that we value a lot here at Dolores Huerta too. We are a dual immersion school. We are a bilingual school. We have a lot of students who are also newcomers, right? So yeah, I think it helps that we did this later in the year. And you definitely introduce it slowly. You also share your own experiences as a teacher if you feel comfortable. You read a lot of books. You kind of have that already in their brains flowing.
And I would say that we're talking about immigration and migration all year, right? It's about, in science, looking at, you know, animal migration and why do people move. And as Cecilia said, we are a dual immersion school, so we are a community of immigrants. And so I think that establishing that and creating that safe space as we're reading personal narratives in the fall and talking about identity and really building that classroom community, I think we're laying the foundation for being able to share these stories in a really safe space. Ireri, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it felt like an ongoing process. We have been talking about immigration since the beginning of the school year, kind of their own personal stories or our personal stories. And so by the time that we got to this project, students were really excited to use the skills that they had learned throughout the year. Like we did interviews for one of our writing spirals, and we had learned how to use Google Drive. And so it was a really independent project, and students were really excited to share the stories of their loved ones and community members.
Thank you.
Yes, questions that coming. Thank you for asking. I think we have time for another one, Cecilia and Ireri, do you think? Did you want to share, you had another one you wanted to share, or shall I share Giovanna?
You can share Giovanna's.
Okay, So, let's see. We are going to get some playtime soon. I know you've been sitting there for a while, so don't worry. We have work for you to play around and learn and tell your own stories. Okay, so this is Giovanna's presentation. She's now in middle school, but she interviewed her dad coming from China. And it was interesting. I also just wanted to note that this project, we have a large, difference in language production in English and in Spanish in dual immersion, and also academic ability. And so giving students tools where they're able to record their voice or type or include pictures, really allowed for us to be much more inclusive. And so you can see that some of the presentations are quite detailed and some of them are very simple, but everyone was able to participate in some way, which was really important and powerful. So she asked her dad how the journey began, and he came when he was 10 years old. And that was also really special that she interviewed him when she was 10. And so she was able to kind of hear her story. And he came to the US because his grandfather was already here. Or her grandfather, rather. Her dad's father was here studying. And this was something else that the students were really impressed by when she shared this with the class, that he first lived in Santa Monica and he was so surprised that there were so many ice cream flavors in the United States, because in China there was just vanilla and chocolate would always run out. And so you didn't have that choice unless you got there early. And if he was so excited to eat ice cream. And some of the challenges he experienced were not knowing English yet, and also being the only Chinese person in his school, and that some people were nice because he was different and others were mean to him because he was different. So this also gave Giovanna an opportunity to learn more from her dad about his own experience in school. And he also was surprised about cartoons and was so sad that he couldn't understand them because he really wanted to know what was so funny or interesting. And the lifestyle changes, he had to learn English and speak it. And he started eating cereal for breakfast, which is not typical where he lived in China. And he got to eat at McDonald's. In those days, McDonald's wasn't in China, and drink Mountain Dew. And he went to church every Sunday, and that was different for him since he didn't do that in China before. And for expectations versus reality, everyone told him in China that America is a rich country and he'll be rich too. And during the time of the immigration station, they called it Gumsan, this gold country, and that wasn't true. And he expected that learning English will help him, and that did become true. And her dad expected that studying hard in school and getting into a good college will help him find a good job. And that also became true. And here is a picture of her dad when he was little. So that's just a little window into some of our students' lives. And my children have gone to the school and have both participated in their own migration interviews. And I have to say that having the opportunity to engage with your family about these stories and record them in some way is really special and important, I think, for your own, family history too. We found it was really beautiful thing. What do you think? Should I share one more, or we're doing okay on time?
If we wanted to give them time to.
Okay, let's move on then.
Move on.
Okay, so I'm going to show, so can you scroll down to the extra slides, please, Ida, and show them, yeah, so we're going to show you Adobe Spark in a minute. Gracias, Gina. So this is a slide that you could make a copy of and make your own slide of a timeline of when you yourself arrived here, or a roadmap or you could also use this with your students if you were using Google Slides. This is something we did not do, but you know, thought it was kind of cool. And if you wanted to experiment, obviously you could just do a Google Slides presentation as well, which we won't be focusing on today per se about how to use Google Slides, but you can. But I'm going to just walk you through the Adobe Spark really quickly, and there's also a tutorial on the page. So I'm going to share screen, Idadi, is that okay? Okay, so I think the biggest challenge of Adobe Spark is actually just finding it. It's on Clever, and right now I'm not able to log into Clever, so I'm just going to show you if I write Adobe Express, it's called, not Spark, but even if I write Adobe Spark, it will show up. And you can sign in with Google with your school credentials. So any student should be able to log into Adobe and like hoping that this will say sign in. Oh, I'm signed in. Let's try to sign up. So there should be something here that says sign in. Yes. And then you will wait for it to load. It's a big program. And you log in with school account. And the tutorial takes you through this as well. Hopefully my internet is better. Is it better, Cecilia? I can still see you. Oh, good.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So then you're going to click on sign in with Google. And this is so nice that you don't have to migrate information. It's all through SFUSD Clever. And then company or school account, and then it should just log you in automatically, I believe, or you might have to click Google one more time. It's a lot of clicking, but it's hopefully once they get, Cecilia's right, she was very skeptical, but some of her students just figured it out right away. I think they were excited about the microphone and the music really more than anything. Okay, so the challenge, if you're familiar with Seesaw, a lot of the options are the same in Seesaw, but I would say Adobe is far more sophisticated. And so that is nice. And also with sophistication comes so many choices, and that can be overwhelming, especially for younger students. So we encourage to just focus with a video, but a collage is another nice way that you can do some images and have some text if you want to not have a video. And you can write the title if you want and start from scratch is what we encourage our students to do. And then you can import photos. You can search for photos on the internet. We've already searched for Angel Island and nothing came up. So the database in Adobe is not as prolific as it should be. But we can change that. We should write them letters and say you need photos of Angel Island Immigration Station. You can add text, video, photo. You can record, which is what Ved did, interviewing his mom. Can have pictures and text, and you know, there's themes, and you can change your music. So many things. The last thing I want to share before we work a little bit is you can send it to Google Drive, but publish. Students can add collaborators, but it can't be a shared link until they publish it. So you just need to make sure that you create the link, and then they could share it on a Padlet or in Google Classroom or wherever else you would like for them to share this link. We used a Padlet in our case. Anything else that we want to, yeah, great job, Javon. I'll let her know. To add, Iredi and Cecilia, about Adobe Spark before they get to explore. No?
No, like I said, I was very hands off on Adobe Spark for my students that did use it. They helped each other out. They were just so savvy about it. I think because they're just so excited to use Chromebooks after not using them all year long.
Right. So Amy just asked, how do you make the video? So the video is sort of a series of slides. So basically, if you saw down below, I'll share again to show. That was just the first slide, for example. Okay, so my father immigrated when he was 3 from Ireland. So I could include, well, I don't know what's going to show up. Wonder if it'll show up. I could include, yeah, sure, not really where they're from, but I'll include that. And then I could get a text. I could add some text and record my voice. And then down below here, you see, it's a little hard for me to see, but there's a plus to add a new slide. So I could add another slide, and then suddenly I have another canvas to work on to add more details. And at the end, it stitches all of those slides together and puts it to music, if you wish, to be able to create sort of this series of slides together. And that was what the kids really enjoyed, was kind of making this movie. And my second grade ELD students who I had taught during the pandemic had used Adobe Spark to make some acrostic poems. And so they were actually leaders in the 3rd grade class because they all knew how to use Adobe Spark and could show the other kids, which was really great. So we're going to give you about 25 minutes to try to play around, and you can write your own story, your family story. You could try to make students that you want to get to know them at the beginning of the school year, whatever you would like to use this time. Yes, you can video. Amy's asking not video like in Seesaw when they can record themselves. They can, but not directly onto this program. So you would have to record yourself on another, like with a phone, and then upload that video to it, which is a little clumsy. Yeah, so definitely got, yeah, go ahead.
Lauren's asking, which I also noticed, did the name change from Adobe Spark to Adobe Express?
Correct, but it's the same program. So it's express.adobe.com is the actual URL now, but in Google searches, Spark still shows up because they just changed that within the year, I think.
Yeah, and like we mentioned, this is also on Clever, so it's quite, yeah, it's easy to get to from Clever, just because it has a tile there, like any other program, like Reading Inventory or McGraw.
Right. Let's spend about 20 minutes just exploring these tools, and you can, if you make something that you want to share with the larger group, you can add it to the Jamboard. I'll make a new page. You could put the URL there, or you could also try to add it to our map Padlet. It's a little harder to edit that after you've already added it, but that could be fun too to explore. So this is your work time, and let us know if you need help, and we will come back to share in about 20 minutes. Hi, everyone. We'll give you about 5 more minutes. And somebody was asking about adding sounds. There's a little microphone icon on the bottom of the slide that you can click, but I suggest that you wait a couple of seconds before speaking because it cuts off. And same when you finish speaking, don't stop recording until a few seconds after you finish speaking so that you can hear it back. And there's a preview button at the top of the page of the browser so you can see how it sounds before publishing.
How about for music, Maureen? Same thing?
Music. You can use their music. There's on the side, on the right-hand side. Let me see if I can pull it up so it's a little clearer. On the right-hand side, there's a tag where you can click music and it can give you choices similar to iMovie. They have a menu of different, or phone ring. You can choose which music theme, but if you want to upload your own music, I think you can, but I haven't. I'm not sure how to do that. Let me know if someone else figures it out. Okay, so actually to add your own music, there's a button called Add My Music, and it will go directly to upload something from your computer. I'm not sure how that works on a Chromebook, if you would have to have it in Google Drive, an MP3 file in Google Drive to upload. Definitely, if you can download it on your computer, you can upload it here. Could you write in the chat and let us know, and maybe some of you are done or some of you wish you had 20 more minutes. Just give us an idea of how much more time do you think you would like to explore these tools before we come back to reflect and close out.
I myself will have to be logging off in a bit, but thank you all so much for attending. And then Ireri and Maureen will stay with y'all till the end. But yeah, this was really fun to do. It's my first time presenting something like this to colleagues in the district. So thank you for attending.
Cecilia has to leave early, but thank you so much for being with us today, Cecilia. We really appreciate your insight and sharing your experience with us today. How about we'll come back at 3 o'clock. So you have 6 more minutes. And if you need support, let us know and we can jump into a breakout room or try to help you. You're right, it isn't a pretty prolific tool. So you could go on and on. Okay. All right, we'll come back in 6 minutes. Oh, hi, Dennis. I muted myself so people could work and I wouldn't bug you anymore. So can you hear me now? Yes. We'll come back in about 3 minutes. All right, everybody, we're going to come on back. You still with us, Ideri? Yes, hi. There were two more things before we close out, Ideri, that I thought would be good to address. One was to sort of see if folks wanted to share anything that they create. And then the other was, I know that Eliza or maybe another teacher was asking about lower grades and how you might adapt these lessons. And we had a really interesting conversation yesterday at school about kindergarten. You know, how are you bringing family stories into the classroom? So I think maybe we could open it up for a minute and teachers could think about how would you adapt up or down this activity to, you know, be able to work in early childhood or, you know, in high school if you wanted to make it more complex. People want to write in the chat or open up or mic. Share what you made, share how you might adapt this to your students' needs.
I think what Maureen is asking is how would you adapt this for either a lower grade like kindergarten or a higher grade, middle school, high school? What changes would you make to the project just to either make it a little bit more simple or a little bit more complicated for the higher grades?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Try again. All right. Anyone want to share? There's a link in the Jamboard. It's on slide 3. If you want to share a link to a published story in Adobe, if you want to be brave, share your story, just like our students were brave to share their stories with you. It's all a work in progress. Or you can write in the chat or open your mic and let us know what you're thinking about how you might use some of these materials with your students this year. Hireri, who was the person who asked you about music? Did they get their question answered? Do you, you know?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Great. Well, I wish we had more time together so we could be in small groups and share our stories with each other, but we are ending our day soon. There's a closeout session at 3:15, and I know there's a feedback form they want you to fill out. But before we do that, could we just write some appreciations in the chat or critical analysis of this tool? I know there are limitations, so it's helpful. You can write in the chat and I can add it here on the reflection page for all of us to see. Yeah, this is the curriculum, isn't it? This is the work that we need to be doing. Oops. What did I just do? Ideri, do you see the chat? Is there anything coming up?
Yes, Namita says, awesome resources, and I truly love the topic, so valuable for our students. Michaelis, this seems like a great combination of digital tools, local resources, and culturally responsive content. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Lauren says, thank you for a wonderful, thoughtful presentation, incredible resources. Yay, Maureen.
Yay, Lauren. Okay, before we close then, keep the chat going, but I just want to share this page of resources. There's a link to our Jamboard from today. There's a really awesome graphic novel that's a wordless book about an immigration migration story that we actually opened our unit with our students. It's about 15 minutes, but we break it up into sections and sort of have the students tell us the story and use visual evidence to support their thinking. And there's information about the ferry and booking an Angel Island visit. There's, thanks to Maria Elena, the History and Social Studies resource page. There's a link to our library's immigration collection, which is pretty robust in English and Spanish at least. And then this is an older website that I made in grad school that may or may not work because I didn't update it to the new Google sites. It's still classic. So, and some of the links are old, so it may not be useful to you, but if you find it useful and can get some resources from it, go for it. And the last thing we wanted to share was the feedback form that Digital District Day is asking you to fill out for every workshop that you attend, and I'll drop that in the chat. And I think that's it.
Maureen, this is Lauren.
Hi.
I've always wondered about how to share the arrival with students in a group. How did you do that?
Yeah, so I used Vimeo. It's on Vimeo.
Okay.
And I'll show you just a little bit as we close. So as soon as you're done with your feedback form, you're welcome to leave and just say goodbye to us before you go. But I show it in 3 parts. So I show like the first 5 minutes, kind of when they're leaving or he leaves. And then I pause and we talk about what we noticed. And then we stop again when he arrives and sort of is in. So I think the timing is like, yeah, maybe the first 5 minutes, I think that's right. And then the next 5, maybe. And then I show kind of the last 5. And we just talk about what is going on, doing VTS, visual thinking strategies, right. Really like what's happening here. What do you see? What does this remind you of? What's going on here? And it is very futuristic, but I think it doesn't have every illustration from the book in the video, but it has a lot. And so then I have 2 copies always. Ideri, isn't that right? Like all the kids want to check the book out after we've watched it. So that's pretty fun. That's the best way to get them is advertised. So yeah, totally. Check it out. And thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Ideri, for being a super co-presenter. I appreciate you. And have a great rest of your afternoon. Have a wonderful school year. And bye to all my friends and my future friends that I don't know yet.
Thank you guys for doing this. This was great. It was really cool. I might have to steal some of your stuff and put it on our website.
It's all to share. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that that I'll actually get to do my work this year. Instead of subbing, and then maybe I can tap into you guys because you guys are already doing the
Yeah,
work.
let's connect. We've got some momentum for sure. So
Yeah,
so
You guys definitely
reach
have
out
stuff,
to you.
and it'd be great to have teachers, especially at a bilingual school, to help teach teachers who don't have that
Right.
and have that understanding of how to develop things if they want to develop it for all their students.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great
Thank you.
afternoon.
Take
ladies.
care.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Gina, te mando un gran abrazo fuerte.
Ay, te quiero tanto. Gracias. Realmente es muy emocionante ver lo que están haciendo ahora en día. Digo, I just can't even imagine how exciting it is.
Es muy intenso
So,
y fuerte y bonito y, ¿verdad? Todas las emociones, Ireri.
gracias, gracias, gracias.
Te echo de menos. Que nos visite.
Pues
She was our family
ahora
liaison, Ireri, many years ago. Yeah.
mándanos familias a Migrant Ed.
¿Sabes? Mándame un enlace para poder pasar a Natalie, porque tenemos que coordinar. Ya.
Ok, le voy a decir a Blanca y a Brenda.
En los últimos 2 años hemos tenido bastante de Mission Education Center.
Great.
Así que
We're gonna bring information to you.
Okay,
Love you.
good. Love you too. Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Lorena. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Miss Wong. Thank you, all of you, for joining.
Maureen, how do we know each other?
So, okay, are you still at Rooftop?
I was.
So we both lived in the Richmond and had our kids at the Blue Playground all the time. So I ran into you there. I think that's actually how I first maybe met you, but we were both educators. But our paths have crossed a few times over the decades.
Because I saw your name and I was like, I know her, but I can't remember how I know.
Yeah.
And I also, yeah.
Where are you now?
Is Cynthia still
Cynthia? She moved on. She's at McKinley now as a literacy specialist. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Where are
all
you?
have I'm over at Sunnyside now.
Oh. There was a teacher whose kids went to my kids' daycare, but I'm not remembering her name right now. But anyway, it's so fun. Ireri, this will happen when you've been a teacher for a long time. You at all the whole district stuff, you run into people you've known for a long time. It's really nice.
And I don't think you were a librarian. When did
I switched in 2013, 2014. So it's been a while, but I was a 4-5 teacher for many, many years. Yeah.
And I started as a 4th grade teacher in the district. So I bet we met through 4th grade something.
Science something, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for some great ideas. I'm very excited to expand my Angel Islands stuff.
Awesome.
Make it better.
Great. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Ireri, I guess
everybody.
you can end this. I don't really know. I'll just turn it off. Yeah. Okay. Bye, everyone. Go to the follow-up session if you want, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Alex, for joining. Okay. Bye, Ireri. Thank you.